Hi there, Yannick speaking. Today I would like to get you started with 4Podcast. 4Podcast is our latest extension. And let me begin by showing you how it looks in the real world on our own website, because we've been running a podcast for a few months now. Let me switch to this so you can actually see what's happening. We have now, our blog has actually turned into a podcast, a blog podcast. And there we still publish regular blog items like you would, but each of them is now an actual podcast episodes. Each of these episodes have their own audio that we recorded separately, and it comes with a pretty player so that people can actually listen to your podcast from the website. But let's use that just for the sake of it. With that, no need to create menu items for many articles to have simple and explicit myself that much. Let's shut that down. But the important thing is that 4Podcast also lets you run this through the typical distribution platforms that you probably heard of or know of or use. Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Pocket Casts, there are many. So by using 4Podcasts on your site, you'll be able to have your content, your audio content distributed through the world. So let's get started. How does it work? Well, the first thing, of course, is that we need to install the extension. I'm here, just note, I'm here on the Joomla 4 website, the standard website, but it works exactly the same on Joomla 3. So let's install 4Podcast. And this is just a plugin. It will auto enable, and at this stage nothing has changed. After the installation is complete, what you need to do is first go to your content elements, and we're going to create a category, because the episodes in our podcast are going to be living into one specific category. So let's create a category. And so we are just going to call this yet another podcast, and that's enough. It doesn't need to have any parent or anything, or you can actually restrict it to only some of the users. Of course, it's just a regular category. And then I'm also going to create a new menu item from the main menu so that we can access our podcast. Podcast, and this is going to be a blog, a category blog as usual, and we're just going to select this podcast category that I just created. Okay, that should be enough. And it's pretty slow actually, but we can see our podcast here. Okay, now the real setup, we need to create our podcast. And the way this is done is by creating a specific fields, a custom fields for Joomla. So we're going to create a new custom field called, well, the Yacht podcast. And this is where it happens. We need to select the 4Podcast item as an item type. And from there, you can fill description and all of things. The important part, the one thing we need to do is to associate it with our category. So our podcast custom fields are going to be associated with the category, the podcast category we created. And from here, there are a few things we need to do. Give it a name. It's for some platforms, it's mandatory to provide an email. There will be an RSS feed URL that will show after we save. We need to give it an actual URL. And then this is just yet another podcast. There are a few things that are mandatory. We need to give it associate an image with it. Just be careful that it needs to be a large image, 1400 by 1400. That's for the page. The show category is from a list of category from iTunes. It's very well defined. You have to pick one category from that list. Whether the show is explicit, the author, all of this is optional. Analytics, we'll get back to that maybe later on in another video. And the rest, you can probably leave that to defaults. And that's pretty much it. So now that we have a field, we have a category to put our episodes in. One thing we need to be able to create a new episode is to have a media, to have some actual audio. So for that, I'm going to go to the media manager. I've created a podcast folder, and I'm going to upload an MP3 file, which is the most common audio file that you're going to be using. So that's the one. It's being uploaded, and what I need to get is the URL of this page. So of this URL, I've got it now, and I can see here. I can check that it works. This is the URL. Hi there, Yannick speaking. Episode, the sample video audio file I have created. So now we're ready, and we can go to the to create our first episodes. And how do we do that? Simply by creating an article. And here we go. We're going to give it a name. Our first podcast episode, and we can provide here any additional details we'd like to our users. Any details, for instance, a link to our blog post, or any additional link or information you want to provide them when they listen to your podcast. So the important thing here, once we have created our article, is to put it in the proper category. Let me move myself out here for a second. We need to select the podcast category that we created earlier, and when we do that, Joomla reacts and it adds the fields tab. And in that fields tab, we can find all the details about our podcast that we need to film, and that's where we can again give it a title to our episode. This is what will go, by the way, to the various distribution platforms. Below, we have some statistics about this episode. It's all set to 0 right now because we haven't started yet and nobody has listened. This will be updated automatically by 4Podcast when people listen to your show, or to this episode rather. You can clear this information. And the most important thing of all is the media file. And this is where I'm going to paste the URL that we got just earlier. Once we have the URL for the file pasted here, we actually need the duration, and the duration in minutes and seconds, and the file length. But that's something really easy to get. Just click on the preview media file, and you'll get here a simpler audio player, or an error if you have a problem with this URL here. And when this is done, 4Podcast actually fill in the duration and the file length automatically, so you don't have anything to do. Next, you can add another description here. So keep in mind, this description here is not going to be put on your website. It's merely meant for your RSS feed, and this will be displayed by third-party platforms if you put your podcast on Google, Apple, or Spotify, or others. We're nearly done. We can select an image specific to this episode. I don't have any, so I'll go back here and just pick this one. Just be careful that you need to have a large image. It's going to be 1400 by 1400 or more. You have a toggle to display this image or not. I advise that you leave on the fact that we are going to generate structured data. Structured data is not going to be helpful for your podcast itself, technically, but it's going to be good for your SEO. So you want to leave that on. And you got more details here. We're not going to go through that right now. And now it's all done. We can just save and close. Let's take a second to go and see what it looks like. So we're going to go to the front end, to our podcast menu item. And here it is, our first episode ready to go. Let's listen a little bit to... Hi there, Yannick speaking. This is a quick post to first wish you a happy new year, if this is a new year for you. And second, to announce the release of a free Joomla module. We developed 4 video, and here it is. It works. That's about it. So the last thing you want to do at this stage possibly is to share your podcast on other platforms than your website. And to do that, the only thing you need basically is to go to the custom fields settings options and use this link. You need to get this link, which is the RSS feed. Let's open it here to show you. This is an RSS feed that includes special information about your episodes and where your media file is located and so on. And this is basically the only thing that platforms like Apple and Google and Spotify and Pocket Casts need to distribute your podcast wherever they can, and so that you can actually reach all your audience. So that's about it for 4Podcasts. I hope this will be useful. Thanks for watching.